The Revenant is directed by Alejandro G. Iñárritu and stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hardy, Domhnall Gleeson, and Will Poulter. This is the story of Hugh Glass, who's on a fur trading expedition with his fellow fur trappers, but soon is mauled by a bear. Near death, Glass is looked after by Fitzgerald, but soon he kills Glass's son and leaves Glass in the wilderness to die. After suffering this tragic loss, Glass sets out on a path to get his revenge. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting to review this movie, but since the Oscars are right around the corner coming up this weekend, I thought it was the right time to finally review The Revenant. And I will say, this is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, I would say this is as close to perfect as you can possibly get with a film. With The Revenant, let's start by talking about these visuals and the cinematography, because this is one of the best looking films I've ever seen. The amount of aerial shots overlooking mountains and this gorgeous scenery is truly breathtaking. The landscape and scenery in general is some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen captured on the big screen. So the opening of The Revenant. Yeah, this is one of the best openings, I think, in film history. There are those movies that get you hooked from the very beginning, and The Revenant is the gold standard of doing this. The opening for this film is one of the most intense, gripping scenes. Right from the get-go, you are into this movie. There's so many movies out there that don't get you hooked until the end, but because of this opening, you are grasped to the story of The Revenant from beginning to end. It's all one take, extremely violent, and because of how they filmed this scene, it makes you feel like you're actually there fighting against the Native Americans. It's just done so well. The lead star here is Leonardo DiCaprio. You guys know he's one of my favorite actors of all time. He is a legend, and there's a reason for that. In this film, he did actually win his first ever Best Actor award at the Oscars, and some people complain because he does not speak too much dialogue in this film. It's very minimal for the most part, but I have to argue against that because what he did besides talking is so impressive. His actions and how he moves, his facial expressions, it's all so realistic. He didn't get the award for his dialogue in this movie and how he delivered it. He got it for how he acted on the screen with his facial expressions and his actions. And that, my viewers, is what makes a great actor. Tom Hardy also gives, in my opinion, one of his top 3 performances. Yes, he is a little bit hard to understand at times, but still, I think he deserved the win Best Supporting Actor for this role. He was truly fantastic as Fitzgerald in this movie, a really great villain too. And I'll get into why I think Fitzgerald is such a compelling villain, but first, let's talk about one of the most famous scenes now in Hollywood, and that is this movie's bear scene. Holy crap, I have no idea to this day how they were able to pull it off, but it just looks so authentic, realistic. This scene is absolutely brutal. Every time I watch it, it gets worse and worse. Oh my god, this looks just like a real bear attack, as if it were happening in real life. Apparently, director Alejandro G. Iñárritu watched a series of bear attacks to make this one look as realistic as possible. I give so much credit to these guys and what they went through to film this scene. Earlier this week, I made a video that was my top 10 movie scores, and in that list was the Revenant score, and this is, in my opinion, one of the better scores over the last couple decades. I love the Revenant score. It's very somber. It fits so well with the story that's being told here because Leonardo DiCaprio, he loses his son in the movie and he sets out on a revenge path. It makes you feel cold, sad, but I think it's one of the best composed scores of the last couple decades. Alright, now let's go back to why I think Tom Hardy makes up such a great villain in this movie by playing Fitzgerald. I love this villain because he has motivation, he has reasons for doing what he did to Hugh Glass's son, and I don't blame him for doing what he did, but he's also at the same time still a scumbag. He didn't do it the way he should have, but as a villain and his performance as well really make this up to be a pretty great villain. And going with the cinematography and the landscapes that were shot for this film, did I mention how all of the lighting is natural lighting? Yeah, they went through so much to film this movie perfectly. It was a strenuous task to make this movie, and they went through such a difficult process. But my God, they did such a good job at making this movie close to perfect. And here's another one of my favorite sequences in which I have no idea how they were able to pull it off. And I like to call this one the cliff sequence. Now if you look here, that looks so real. I have no clue how they were able to do that, but it just goes to show that Alejandro G. Iñárritu is a filmmaking genius. Every single shot in this movie looks real. I could not look at a single shot in this movie and say, that looks fake. Everything looks authentic. I still have no idea how they were able to pull any of this off. But these guys are filmmaking experts. Another word I associate with The Revenant so much is gritty. This movie is as gritty as you could possibly get. A very violent, bloody movie. But with all this added blood and gore, it elevates The Revenant to high levels. Another thing that stuck with me watching this movie the other night were the themes associated with The Revenant, because there are plenty to pick from. There's themes about losing loved ones, revenge, religion. We see our history be brought back up with Native Americans and how our conflict with them was portrayed. This causes a lot of reflection because you think back to when we first came to America and what we did to these Native Americans. The Revenant explores that in every possible direction, and I also really enjoy that aspect of this film. Even the ending to The Revenant is satisfying, and it makes you think for a moment, wait a minute, I'm not watching a movie about just revenge and bears mauling people and Native Americans fighting against Americans, but no, this is actually a character study on the character of Hugh Glass and what he went through after losing his dear loved ones. It really does explore this character in so many different dimensions. You see this guy and what he went through. You feel so much for him, but at the same time, there's also the symbolism that comes back to him. And I liked how they added that at the end of this film. So guys, those are my thoughts on The Revenant. I had a lot to say about this film. In my opinion, it's close to perfect. It's one of my favorites of the last couple decades. I can see where people didn't necessarily like this film in terms of the pacing at times. Yes, it's slow, but for me personally, I don't think this movie's slow at all. I think it's so fast-paced. The movie flew by for me the other night. Yeah, there is a little bit too much symbolism. I can look past that. I don't think this movie is hurt by any of the symbolism. It doesn't affect me watching this movie whatsoever. It's just kind of there. They could have taken it out, but it is what it is. So nonetheless, I just have to do what's right in my opinion. I'm gonna give The Revenant, yes, a 100%. Call me a fanboy of these filmmakers or Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, but in my opinion, the process these guys went through was one of the most difficult filmmaking processes ever, in my opinion. And how the product came out at the end was near perfect. That's just how I see it in my eyes. But let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about The Revenant. So my review for Annihilation should finally come up this weekend or early this week. I will give you guys all an update on that. If you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.